Welcome to this new how-to. In this how-to we're gonna look at items which you might have not known about the Concorde, which has been released earlier this week by DC Design. So the first item we're gonna have a look at is hidden inside a special folder of the Concorde. And to use it we need to go to the world map, because if you read the manual there's some information about it, but if you didn't read it, as maybe several people have done, then you didn't discover it yet. So what you need to do is you need to go to load from this PC, and if you go to the local cache folder and then to the packages, community, and then DC Design's aircraft Concorde documents, Concorde, you will find a folder called flight plans. Yes, there are 4 flight plans included in the I would say inside the Concorde aircraft directory. So there are, I'd say, 2 destinations, or actually 3, right? So you can fly from Barbados to London and the other way around, and you can fly from John F. Kennedy to London and the other way around. So if you load it, right, you can simply do that. Then you will see that it contains a predefined flight, in this case from Heathrow Airport, runway 27 Romeo, and then it goes direct to JFK Airport, arrivals direct. So flight time is roughly 3 hours, but that depends on the speed. So really cool. There are 4 flight plans included inside the folder of the Concorde. Unfortunately, there's no, let's say, flight, for example, from Paris Charles de Gaulle, but you can, I would say, plan those flights either manually using the world map, or you can do it using SimBrief. Let's see what's next. The second item, which is really interesting, has to do with the, let's say, realistic things in the aircraft. Probably that's the best wording. So if you go to the view, you know that you can define the view, but also you can define the weight, right? Which includes the pilot, the co-pilot, the flight engineer, the crew, but also the business class and the forward baggage and the rear baggage. Now, if you would normally go inside the aircraft, and let's do that, you won't see many people in the aircraft, right? So we're gonna fly via the back of the aircraft inside the cabin, and there we will see, in between brackets economy, you don't see anything. But if you fly to the curtain, you arrive in the business piece, right? So in business class, and in the business class you do see nice chairs, right? That's one thing which is also, let's say, kind of I would say, I hope that they will fix that in the future release of the aircraft, that they will also add some more realistic chairs to the, let's say, economy seats. But you're missing the passengers. Now, if you go back to the cockpit and then move around, you can go to the flight engineer's position. And the flight engineer's position, after clicking many times, you will find a secret button here called passengers. And if you switch it on, and now go back to the passengers location, you will see passengers, and the nice thing is that you also hear them talking, right? So besides adding, I would say, the passengers themselves, they also added some sound to make it more realistic. So nice addition to this aircraft, and it's included for free. So you might have not known it, but now you know it. Let's see what other things I've discovered. For the third item, we need again to go back to the flight engineer seat, because the flight engineer controls a lot in the aircraft, right? That's something you need to be aware of. The flight engineer in the Concorde was really, I would say, a person which was really, I would say, you couldn't miss it, because he or she needed to do a lot of things. And if we go to this panel, which is also marked by the white line, you can see it's fuel management, because fuel management is critical, right? You need to, let's say, move from the left tank or the tanks in the back to the tanks in the front, and you need to do some shifting, right? That's all described in the manual, but also in the checklist, right? If I open the checklist, as I'm currently doing, you can see that there's a special section which is all about the fuel transfers. Now, the good thing is that the fuel transfers, if you look at this nice button, which is marked here, you can say, hey, it says Trim Tanks Auto Master. And that functionality has been added by the developers to make it easier for you, because if you do all the things manually, it might be, I would say, initially a little bit difficult, right? Because you're trying to figure out how the aircraft works. So by default, it has been set to, what's the name? Come on. View Auto Transfer a Master, and then you can set it to either to forward, which is the default setting. You can set it to rearward, which means it's the back. Kind of, I would say, maybe, I'm not sure if it's a correct wording, but it should be. Or you can set it to off, right? So currently it's set to off, but if you set it to front, it will automatically transfer the fuel or the jet oil to the front of the aircraft, to the front tanks. So you can use it in your advantage, right? Once you've set it, you can close it. That's really nice, easy to use. If you don't want to manage the, I would say, trimming of the tanks yourself. So this was already the third item. Let's see what's next. The fourth item has to do with controlling some of the buttons. And the most important button is actually here, right? So you can see the knots, which allows you to, I'd say, define the maximum speed the aircraft can fly. If you can see that we're turning now, right, you can see it only moves one digit. If you now need to move to 400, for example, that will take you ages and will probably make you crazy scrolling the mouse. Now, here's the trick what you can do. So if you go to the general options, inside the general options, you go to accessibility, and there you will find the cockpit interaction system. The cockpit interaction system is currently set to locked, which is, I would say, the new default mode for most aircrafts, but some aircrafts, including the Concorde, looks like to have a small issue with it. So what you can do in this case is set it to legacy and then hit apply and save. Go back to the aircraft, and there you will see that you've got another button, right? If I'm now hovering over this nice, I would say, dot, which is over here, I can switch it, and then I can move, well, not as, I would say, the units of 1, but the 10 units, right? So 10 units at a time, which makes it, say, really easy to, let's say, move to the maximum position, right? You could solve something weird, right? If you're, let's say, hitting the 400, it will reset it back, and then it will set it to the maximum of 400, which is the maximum setting you can set currently in the Concorde. So another nice tip, really useful one, I thought. So let's see what's the next tip. The next and last item we're gonna look at is the auto throttle piece, because the auto throttle piece, as already known, can be controlled using this button, but there are some more buttons, and those are, I would say, located here, right? So there are 3 buttons, and the left one can be used to increase or decrease the airspeed, but then with only, I would say, 1 knot at a time. So keep in mind that if you want to change it with 10 knots at a time, you need to use the upper, I would say, button. If you want to decrease only with 1, then you can use this button. In addition to that, there are 2 other buttons which might be very useful for you. For example, this one, which allows you to set the vertical mode, the climb rate and the descent rate, using this button, either by pushing it up or pushing it down. The, I would say, nasty thing is that there's no real value behind it, so you still need to have a look at the displays what the climb or descent rate is. The last one is the Autopilot bank turn, and the Autopilot bank turn is by default set to 10 degrees. And you can use this to, let's say, configure the banking angle when the aircraft makes turns, right? The nice thing that you can also set it negative. However, I didn't play enough with it to see what the effect is, but by default it's 10 degrees, and you can set it even further to up to a maximum of 35 degrees, which means that you're making pretty steep turns. So here ends this video. I hope you liked it. In this video we looked at several items which have to do all with the nice Concorde aircraft. A lot of buttons which you might not have found yet. So hopefully this video was useful for you. If you liked this video, then press the like button. If you've got questions or comments, then feel free to put them in the comment box below. And if you want to stay up to date about new videos I'm making, then make sure that you're subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.